But at this moment, I would like to raise another question, which is related. We are in the midst of a global pandemic. More than 420,000 American lives have been lost. Just three short weeks ago, 20 days ago, this Capitol, this age-old symbol of America, was attacked by a homegrown domestic terrorist. It was overrun for the first time since the British invasion in the War of 1812. After this horrific attack on this Capitol, this mob, insurrectionist mob, I hope that the United States can finally come to grips with the reality of terrorism today. I remember 9/11 very well. Who could forget it if you lived through it? I was in this building and fully expected an attack on this structure. We ran out down the steps onto the grassy lawn and stood wondering what to do next. This was going to be the next target. Thank goodness for the heroism of those who came forward and took control of a plane, and at least diverted it into Pennsylvania. Some would dismiss the insurrectionist mob as just another rowdy political crowd, not unlike many other political demonstrations. In fact, I've heard comparisons, Black Lives Matter rallies in comparison to the terrorist attack of January 6th. But there was a fundamental difference 20 days ago. And that fundamental difference is the fact that 5 Americans died as a result of that mob invading the Capitol, including one Capitol policeman. We've heard rumors of the details of how he died. I'm sure we're going to hear more as the investigation continues. But this was just not another political demonstration. It was an example of terrorism, period. American-grown, American-sponsored. The security of our nation is still at stake. There was a demonstration yesterday in downtown Chicago by white supremacists. Over 80 of them gathered. Over 80 of them in downtown Chicago to stand up and defiantly show that they were still alive and well and ready to act. The very least we can do is to ensure that the agency responsible for our protection against this sort of terrorism has leadership. That agency is the Department of Homeland Security. President Biden has suggested a man to lead that department, Mayorkas. He's an extraordinary public servant. The Senate has confirmed him 3 times. Previously, he served for 7 years at this agency, and he's been nominated now to lead it. Most recently, he served as the Department of Homeland Security Deputy Secretary, the agent's second in command, and Chief Operating Officer. He was in charge of counterterrorism, cybersecurity, border security, emergency management, and other critical matters. He did the job and did it well, and we need him again. We need his expertise and experience at the Department of Homeland Security today. Today. Perhaps the Republicans have forgotten about the last 4 years of failed policy and chaos at the Department of Homeland Security. Just a little reminder, it was under President Trump that the agency experienced an unprecedented leadership vacuum. Consider this, Mr. President. The Department of Homeland Security lurched from one secretary or acting secretary to the next. Six people headed that agency during the Trump administration. Only 2 of them were confirmed by the United States Senate. That's more agency heads in the last 4 years than in the 13-year history of the Department of Homeland Security before the Trump administration. They couldn't keep a leader in place. The president was firing them, and they were resigning right and left. For over a year, that agency, the Department of Homeland Security, was led by an unlawfully appointed acting secretary, Chad Wolf. And then, just 9 days before Donald Trump left the White House, Mr. Wolf resigned, replaced by yet another acting secretary. An agency with the critical task of keeping America safe, keeping our families safe, couldn't even agree on who would head the agency. 4 former secretaries of Homeland Security, 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats, every person who served as a Senate-confirmed DHS secretary prior to the Trump administration say that Ali Mayorkas is the man for the job. They said he is, quote, a man of character, integrity, experience, and compassion, a proven leader to right the ship. In their endorsement of Mr. Mayorkas, they went on to say, the leadership vacuum and turmoil at the Department of Homeland Security may have contributed to the failure to anticipate and adequately prepare for the attack on the Capitol. That's the reality after 4 years of disorder and disarray at Department of Homeland Security. The security of America, including the security of this very building, suffered because of lack of leadership under the Trump administration. Over the last 4 years, we have watched the politicization of the Department of Justice and Homeland Security. We've seen some horrible things occur. Operation Zero Tolerance, 2,700 infants, babies, children separated from their parents at the border of the United States, cast into a bureaucratic system and forgotten until a federal judge in Southern California said, enough. I want to know who those kids are, and I want to know why they haven't been reunited with their parents. That was months after they had been separated. Mr. President, I went to an immigration court in Chicago, downtown in the Loop, in a big high-rise office building. I didn't expect to find a court, but I did. I got off the elevator and the walls were lined with people. The hallways were packed with those waiting for a hearing before this immigration court. I met the judge. She had been on the bench there in the immigration court for almost 20 years. She was a good person, you could tell. She said, Senator, I wish you'd stay for the docket call this morning in this immigration court. This was in the middle of this zero tolerance separation of children from their parents. I want you to see the first 2 clients who are going to come before us. And I waited. And they called the docket, and they said that everyone in the courtroom should be seated. There was difficulty seating one of the persons on the docket. You see, Marta was her name. She was 2 years old. She had to be lifted into a chair and handed a stuffed animal. Luckily, the little boy, who coincidentally had the name Hamilton, was enticed to climb up on the chair when they put a Matchbox car on the table. 2 of the children separated by the zero tolerance policy of the Department of Homeland Security under President Trump. There was, of course, a decision to postpone any hearing on their case for 6 months. They were put back into the system. And I don't know what ultimately happened in the meantime, but I can tell you this. It was months before Marta was returned to her mother. And when she was returned to her mother, did she run to her with open arms? No. She refused to look at her. She turned her back on her. She felt she had been abandoned. She had not been abandoned by her mother. She had been abandoned by anyone with a conscience at the Department of Homeland Security. That's what happened. And that's what happened under that agency and the Trump administration. Is it any wonder that we need new leadership, that we need an accounting of these children? There are still only rumors, but they are heartbreaking rumors that some 200 children are still adrift in the system, never reunited with their families. I pray that isn't true. I will tell you, if it's within my power, the Senate Judiciary Committee will certainly investigate that. The failure of the Department of Homeland Security in that instance is going to be one of the most shameful chapters in the modern history of the United States. And the failure of our nation's national security leaders to address the threat of violent white supremacists and other far-right extremism really gives evidence to why we need to fill this spot immediately. So what's the problem? President Biden has nominated Ali Mayorkas. Ali Mayorkas has turned in his paperwork required by law, has submitted his name for a hearing and appeared before a committee of Congress. Well, why isn't he being approved here? One senator, the senator from Missouri, has a hold on his nomination. Why? Well, he may disagree with him on some policy, he said publicly. I'm sure he does. I'm sure he disagrees on many policies. Is that enough? Is that enough to say that this critical agency will not have a leader because the senator of Missouri disagrees with him on a policy? Occasionally, I tune into Fox to see what folks are saying there. And the other night, last week, when I tuned in, there was this breathless reporting of a brown-skinned invasion at our border, thousands in caravans destined for the United States. Over and over again, we've heard that story. Well, what agency is responsible for making sure that their arrival on our border is orderly, that they do not cross the border improperly? It's the Department of Homeland Security, the same agency that is being denied leadership by one senator on the other side of the aisle. It's time to get over it. It's time to give President Biden the leadership we need at that agency as quickly as possible. We, in contrast, know that America is a unique nation, and what makes us special is that people from all over the world can come to our shores and become Americans, not because of their race or ethnicity, but because they embrace America's democratic ideals. The son of a Holocaust survivor and an immigrant from Cuba, Mr. Mayorkas knows firsthand that America can be a beacon of hope and promise to those facing persecution. Mr. Mayorkas is an experienced national security leader who can restore integrity and decency at the Department of Homeland Security. I personally appreciated the skill and dedication he showed as director of the United States Citizenship and Immigration Service. There, in the year 2012, he implemented DACA, the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, that allowed more than 800,000 young people to have a chance to be part of America. As Deputy Secretary, Mr. Mayorkas oversaw a $60 billion budget and led a workforce of 230,000 individuals. He is the right man for the job, and he should be on the job today. He excelled in that role, receiving the department's Distinguished Service Award, the highest civilian honor, the U.S. Coast Guard's Distinguished Service Award, and a special commendation from the National Security Agency for his achievements in national security and cybersecurity. Among his numerous responsibilities, he led the department's response to the Zika and Ebola outbreaks, highly relevant and timely expertise we could use now in this COVID-19 pandemic. He served as a Senate-confirmed U.S. Attorney to California earlier in his career. The national president of the Fraternal Order of Police enthusiastically endorsed Mr. Mayorkas and said his professionalism, integrity, and commitment to just and fair enforcement of the law makes him an ideal candidate to lead the department. Mr. Mayorkas has pursued criminal wrongdoers and has protected the rights of the innocent with indefatigable vigor. His work reflects all that is right in government. That was the statement from the Fraternal Order of Police about this nominee. He is an outstanding nominee to be Secretary of Homeland Security. His experience, qualifications, expertise, and integrity will serve America well at a time when we desperately need him. I ask the senator who is holding his nomination to release the hold today, but let Mr. Mayorkas go to the head of this agency where he is desperately needed and show the kind of leadership he has over and over again for this country. I urge my colleagues to expeditiously confirm Mr. Mayorkas so that he can serve as the next Secretary of Homeland Security. Mr. President, I yield the floor.